Welcome to the Locked On NBA Mock Draft Special. We're diving deep into every first-round pick with local experts from across the network. Insider analysis, bold trades, and surprise selections you won't see coming. Let's hit the clock. The draft starts now.
Welcome into episode 5 of the Locked On Podcast Network's 2025 NBA Mock Draft, the most comprehensive first-round mock draft anywhere. Over the 6-episode series, you will get all kinds of analysis from the college level, international, NBA team, and league coverage. We have it all for you right here. You can get all 6 episodes of this series on the Locked On NBA channel, as well as the Locked On NBA Big Board YouTube channel, as well as anywhere you get your podcasts. Here at Locked On, we have a show for every single NBA team, including the Miami Heat, and we have all of our hosts will act as GMs, negotiating trades and making their selections in this mock draft. Joining me on the desk, host of Locked On NBA Big Board, Rafael Barlow, the scout extraordinaire, host of NBA Game Night and Locked On West on the phone, Locked On Heat on the phones, Wes Goldberg, and I'm Nick Angstead, host of Locked On NBA Game Night and Locked On Mavs. Last episode, we had a couple of trades. We had a couple of moves made. We had a couple of good picks getting made. And this one, we'll see a couple of big picks. Oh, and we have breaking news in this one. A trade has been made that has nothing to do with this NBA draft. Of course, in a mock draft, we have a trade being made. The Phoenix Suns are sending Kevin Durant to the Miami Heat. The Suns are getting Andrew Wiggins, Duncan Robinson, Kel'el Ware, Miami's 2030 first-round pick, and a swap in 2029. Wes Goldberg of Locked On Heat. Why Kevin Durant and why now?
Why now in the middle of this mock draft? Well, we initially had conversations around the 20th pick and decided that Locked On Suns did not care very much about the 20th pick in this draft. They preferred to get draft picks later down the line when Kevin Durant would be presumably not on the team or retired or whatever. But yeah, we just phoned this into the league office. I'm glad you got the alert when you did. This is a big play for Miami, right? They don't have much use for the 20th pick at this point. This is a team that, despite what you think, they still want to win now. They still want to open the door to potentially getting into the playoffs in a wide open Eastern Conference. And they look at Kevin Durant as somebody who can help things right away. Miami has been 21st in offensive rating for 3 straight years. They can't get out of the bottom 10 of offensive rating. Kevin Durant will help them immensely. He will be a true number 1 option. He'll help Tyler Hero play more of a complementary role off the ball. He has won a gold medal with Bam Adebayo. Bam, in my conversations as the fake GM with my fake star player, was instrumental in bringing Kevin Durant to Miami.
I thought these were going to be real.
Yeah, well,
it's real to us.
It's real to us, okay?
I thought you were going to say something about like Kevin Durant and Bam have this special bond or something.
They won a gold medal. They do have a special bond. Kevin Durant knows he can win at the highest level with Bam Adebayo. So, look, it makes a lot of sense. And then the tough part for Miami was having to give up on Kel'el Ware, a guy who's second team all rookie, but we know that Phoenix is looking to solve that center spot. They wanted Kel'el Ware. They demanded Kel'el Ware. You trade Andrew Wiggins and you trade Duncan Robinson. Wiggins is just a plug and play guy, can fit pretty much anywhere. And then Duncan Robinson is one of these unique contracts that is 50% guaranteed. So if they waive him, they'll save $10 million against their cap right away, which for Phoenix means a lot more money and potentially takes them out of the second apron. So financial, draft picks, all the stuff, they get their center of the future in Phoenix. And for Miami, they get a legitimate star scorer, regardless of his age. Kevin Durant, still one of the best offensive players in the NBA.
And anytime you can go from one enigmatic star to another, you have to do that if you're the Miami Heat.
That's the way they do it in Miami. I don't know. It was Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, Jimmy Butler, and now Kevin Durant.
Well, one thing we know for sure is Durant is not going to have any issues passing, what is it, the fat test or the body fat test?
That's very true.
But it makes sense because when the Nick Claxton trade was made, I was like, what happens with Kel'el Ware? So that's when I knew that there had to be something else brewing. So it makes sense now.
I also would like to just note that we've traded both Wiggins in the NBA. Aaron Wiggins got traded to the Nets, and now Andrew Wiggins also gets traded. But Kevin Durant going to Miami, this is to me. I don't understand this trade. I don't get this move because I don't see the Miami as a win now team. And even though it's a wide open East, like with Tyler Hero, Kevin Durant, and Bam, like what are you expecting? Is Eastern Conference Finals the the goal, or do you think you can make a finals with this team?
Well, on draft night, they have completely reshaped the starting lineup. If they bring back Davion Mitchell, you've got Davion Mitchell, Tyler Hero, Kevin Durant, Bam Adebayo, and Nick Claxton now in Miami. That's a pretty formidable, long starting five. You could switch everything. It allows you to hide Tyler Hero defensively in a way that they couldn't last year. And yeah, you're moving on from Kel'el Ware and his upside, but if you're already in on the Kevin Durant business, you're in the win now business. So once you've decided to try to make a move for Kevin Durant, I don't know how much utility Kel'el Ware actually had for this roster. Claxton is a much better defender right now than Kel'el Ware is right now. So you upgrade the center spot, at least in the short term. You get that number one scorer. And if you're Miami, you never have, not since the Big Three era, have you had the best team on paper, and you've still made the finals twice. So you believe, like, okay, just get us into the playoffs with Eric Spoelstra, with our culture, with our stability, with all the things that we can do and our ability to maximize guys. We think that we can always give ourselves a chance, even if we're not the best team on paper, and that's what they're going to do.
You traded Rozier and Jaime Jaquez earlier with the Nick Claxton trade we talked about before. Who's left on the bench for the Heat?
It's a lot of Pelle Larsson minutes. It's a lot of Nikola Jovic.
Keon Johnson, you got in the other deal too.
Yep, they got Keon Johnson, and this is going to be a team now that could be a player in free agency, right? I mean, you could have a lot of veterans say, "I'll sign the minimum to live in Miami and play with Kevin Durant and Bam and Tyler Hero and all these guys."
Not a bad deal. Not a bad deal. Maybe?
I think it's time to rebuild the Heat culture. The mystique is over. It's time to rebuild. I would have kept Kel'el Ware. I get it. You want to go out and you want to give the fans, the fans probably in Miami could care less about a rebuild. So You probably want to bring in Durant and at least provide some hope. But I think you're just prolonging that Miami is just time to start all over.
Fans of Miami didn't care about one of the finals games that they were in recently.
They just came halfway through the second quarter, and then they left at halftime, and they came back halfway through the third quarter. So that's Miami. That's
a trade. It has nothing to do with this draft. There's no picks from this draft involved, but you're the GM, so you get to do what you decide to do.
It did make the 20 to 26 trade for Claxton make more sense. So we needed the context.
Fair, absolutely fair. But back to the actual draft itself. With the 25th pick, the Orlando Magic take Denver's pick here, and they're on the clock.
With the 25th pick in the Locked On NBA mock draft, the Orlando Magic select Walter Clayton Jr. from the University of Florida. Much like my decision to go acquire Anthony Simons, the reason here is offense. The Orlando Magic need scorers. They need creators. They need players who can make their own shot. And while Clayton does have a little bit left on the table defensively, he fills the exact need the Orlando Magic have. Now, obviously, Orlando still has work to do. We're looking to trade maybe Cole Anthony or Goga Bitadze in the offseason to supplement the forwards, but I just didn't like the forwards that are available. Rasheer Fleming was long gone. Yaxel Lendeborg pulled out of the draft. There were a lot of options that I would have really liked to have preferred. I would have gone with Thomas Sorber, perhaps, if he was still available. But at the end of the day, Clayton gives the Magic a skill set that they desperately need. They need more scoring. They need more creation. They need more guys who, when they get the ball in their hands, are going to look to the basket and say, I want to put this thing in the hoop. The Orlando Magic need that. Walter Clayton was still the best option. He is a veteran. He is someone who has won championships, and he'll fit in perfectly with the Orlando Magic.
The Magic pick Walter Clayton from Florida. I can just imagine him just in the championship game, just scoring over and over and over again. Raphael, is he going to be able to do that on the NBA level for the Magic?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, you just look at Orlando's roster. They just added Ant Simons. They have Anthony Black, who I think they believe in. I think minutes are going to be tough to come by. Orlando had Jet Howard. They drafted him. They've drafted Tristan da Silva. So back-to-back drafts. They haven't even been able to find minutes for their rookies. Anthony Black's rookie year, he got some DNP CD. So it's not the best situation to come into if you're looking to get minutes. However, if he is given the opportunity to play, he does provide some outside shooting, clutch shooting. He's a bucket getter, and he's something that Orlando has needed in the past, but they just got a different version of him in Ant Simons in a previous trade. But overall, I like what they're doing.
Yeah, I think they just started addressing the major need there, which was just more scoring in the backcourt. You start with Anthony Simons, you go ahead and get Walter Clayton. Both of these guys knockdown shooters. He adds some of that scoring, some of that playmaking to a team that obviously desperately needs it. He's not the answer. He just addresses the issue. But more than anything, the Magic love leadership and intangible guys.
Yeah.
And that's Walter Clayton. First of all, he's from the Central Florida area, then went to school in Gainesville, a couple hours north of Orlando. And you just know that he's going to walk into that locker room and be really well liked, well respected, will represent the Magic well, and their new uniforms. So, when you're kind of picking here at the end of the first round, you're looking for guys who can help address issues, but you're also looking for guys who fit everything that you stand for and culture guys and things like that. And I think Orlando did that.
Do you think front offices call in their social media staff and are like, hey, can you just mock up a jersey mock up here just to see how our guy looks in our jersey?
They probably should.
They have to. Imagine the Mavs did that as soon as they won the draft.
Mavs were doing that before the lottery. Nico's just sitting there going, oh, imagine I'll just save everything if we could.
That's why they actually made the Luka trade. They're like, Anthony Davis would look way better in a Mavericks jersey.
Something about blue. It's the yellow. Luka didn't look red and yellow. I don't know what it is about. So the Magic make their pick. Walter Clayton going to the Magic at 25.
The best shooter in the 2025 NBA draft, Walter Clayton Jr., has a new home. I am Brandon Olson with Locked On Gators. Walter Clayton Jr. was the coldest shooter I've ever laid eyes on a college basketball court. No moment was too big for him. In fact, Walter Clayton Jr. might have been too big for every single moment that was thrown in front of him as he led the Florida Gators to a national championship, and he carried the offense at times. You look at the biggest moments, the biggest games, and even if he's not playing a great game at that moment, he goes out and gets the bucket when it's needed. We saw him facilitate the offense all season. He's been proven that he could be a playmaker and not just a bucket getter. If he improves that defense just a bit, you're looking at a guy that's going to have a long career as a rotational player in the NBA. Love Walter Clayton Jr.'s game. I think he's a very modern basketball player, and I think he's going to have a lot of success at the next level.
With the 26th pick, this was the pick that Miami gets the trade. We'll mention it before. Miami got 26, Nick Claxton and Keon Johnson. The Nets got the 20th pick, Terry Rozier, Jaime Jaquez, and then some kind of confangled second round pick that the Brooklyn Nets GM demanded and then left. But with the 26th pick, let's see where the Miami Heat go.
Wes Goldberg here from Locked On Heat, making the pick at number 26 after our trade back with the Nets. And we are selecting Adu Thiero. He's a super raw forward out of Arkansas that could potentially turn into a home run for the Heat and their world-class development staff. Thiero's background makes him a really interesting pick with a ton of upside. He shot up from 6 feet tall to 6'6" after his junior year of high school, going from a lead guard for his high school team to a playmaking wing. And as a junior in college, he measured in at 6'8" and filled the stat sheet for John Calipari's team. Super versatile athlete, has a sky-high steal rate, gets a ton of deflections, all the stuff that the Heat are going to be interested in after watching Oklahoma City's run to the finals, and can help solidify their defensive identity after the Jimmy Butler trade. Thiero's going to need to improve as an outside shooter, as a ball handler at the NBA level, but he's an unselfish player who's going to do what's asked of him, something that Eric Spoelstra will appreciate. He's getting compared to Tamani Kamara in the pre-draft process, and it's easy to see why. Thiero definitely has the potential to develop into an all-NBA caliber defender, and the Heat might be the best place for him to develop into that player.
Abdou Thiero going to the Heat. Raphael, your thoughts on this fit now with Kevin Durant on this Heat team and this brand new looking Heat?
Yeah, he provides depth, and he fits the bill of like the tough players that Pat Riley has liked in the past. He seems like a guy that would have played for Pat Riley's Knicks. He's athletic. He's a blue-collar guy. He's improved a lot. His freshman year, he did not look like an NBA player. Made some strides as a sophomore, transferred from Kentucky to Arkansas, and then had a breakout junior year. Unfortunately, he had an injury that kind of derailed it. I think if he would have been healthy the whole year, he probably goes a little bit higher. But I like what he brings to the table as an athletic, energetic, rebounder, hustle guy. If he can improve as an outside shooter, then I think he ends up being a high-end rotation player.
Yeah, all of everything what Raphael just said are huge buzzwords in Miami's building. The hustle, the dog mentality, blue collar, all that stuff. I mean, they're doing flips in the war room right now. Look, it just made sense at the pick. Versatile defensive-minded wing, super toolsy. The Heat have they've invested a lot in their developmental staff over the last few years, and Thiero with these tools, it just gives them this kind of interesting thing to work on. And with Jimmy Butler gone, Andrew Wiggins was sent out in the Durant deal. They need long-term options at forward, especially guys who can defend at a high level. And so you get the arrow in your building, you're able to work with him development-wise, maybe get him to shoot threes at a higher rate and things like that. But in the meantime, he can walk in and provide a little oomph for you defensively, which is what they're going to need.
After the trade, Abdou Thiero goes to the Miami Heat at 26.
Adou Thiero could be one of the biggest steals of the NBA draft and be great for an NBA franchise. I am John Neighbors with the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Adou Thiero was one of the players for the Razorbacks that were so key in the success that they had this past regular season. Although he dealt with injury, he was able to lead the team in scoring as well as rebounding. Because of his freak athleticism, he was one of the great players that could get to the rack and score in various ways, whether it was going in for a layup, going in for a dunk, getting to the free throw line, outside shooting, and playing great defense in transition. He was always finding ways to get himself involved on the play. He's a hustle type of player that's going to work extremely hard for whichever NBA franchise decides to take a chance on him. Adou Thiero is that guy, and I expect him to do great things in the NBA for a long time coming.
Coming up in the Locked On NBA mock draft, do the Brooklyn Nets, with their 6th and final pick, select another Frenchman? We'll tell you coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Go check out FanDuel and see all the great stuff that's available for the NBA draft. Right now, Cooper Flagg minus 100,000 to go number 1 overall. Seems like that's going to happen. Dylan Harper minus 4,000 to go number 2 as we're recording this. VJ Edgecombe, the favorite right now to go number 3, minus 125. Ace Bailey plus 230 right after him. Then Trey Johnson plus 460 to go number 3 overall. So there's a bunch of stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of other odds that you can get on FanDuel. You can get them all throughout the NBA Finals if they're still going. You can go through NFL futures as well. WNBA, great stuff on there all the time. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. That's right now. Head to FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet. If that one wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. So put that down on something you think is absolutely going to hit no matter what, because you win whatever you get from the $5. Then you also get $200 to use on basically anything else. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Please gamble responsibly. With the 27th pick, the Brooklyn Nets finally make their last selection. This is the Rockets pick that the Brooklyn Nets have. And let's see who the Nets pick with their 6th pick in the first round.
With the 27th pick in the 2025 Locked On NBA mock draft, the Brooklyn Nets select Hugo Gonzalez, a 6'7" forward out of Real Madrid in Spain. And the former Locked On Nets hosts wrap up this first round mock draft for the Nets with their 6th first round selection. These guys were wheeling and dealing, and they cap it off with Gonzalez, a player who is an extremely high motor guy, really tries and puts in a ton of effort defensively, has good range, good instinct, some athleticism at his size with a very nice frame there. Also offensively, has some shot creation ability, some things he's flashed in that area. If the three-point shot can come around, he's a guy who has some potential to be a scorer and also could be, a little bit of a two-way force there if some of the things click the right way. The Nets add a Spanish prospect there for Jordi Fernandez and another guy to cap off what should be a very promising rookie class.
Hugo Gonzalez going to the Nets. Raphael, I guess let's start with Hugo Gonzalez, and then we'll talk about how they're bringing in a half dozen rookies into their camp this year.
Before we get into that, is this pick from the James Harden trade? It has to be.
I think so. Is it, man?
It seems like that trade was so long ago.
Harden is on his 3rd different team since then.
Yeah,
Sixers and then
Sixers, Clippers. Yeah, it just shows you like how far out these picks are, even though it may not have been that long ago, but it just seems like an eternity ago. But Hugo Gonzalez is a player that is, to me, one of the biggest wild cards in this draft. When you look at the 2006 generation from international players, Hugo Gonzalez was ranked number 1 most of his time. He ends up in a situation where he stays with Real Madrid, and Real Madrid provides just a different opportunity or lack of opportunity that some of his peers from the same generation got. You look at Yakachonis, who was a lottery pick, goes to Portland. You look at Yegor Dimon, who was his teammate in Real Madrid. They go to college route. They play a lot, and they end up being higher picks, even though Gonzalez was ranked higher, thought to be the better prospect. You look at Noah Singeh, goes to Radio Farm Ulm, a team in Germany that is not afraid, one of the few European clubs that is not afraid to play young players. Asenge ends up, well, is his teammate now, but ends up being a lottery pick. Gonzalez was stuck in a situation where he did not get a lot of minutes, did not have a lot of opportunity to show what he's capable of or why he was so highly touted, because he was playing behind some of the top veterans in Spain, some of the former NBA players. This is a pick that could end up being a really, really good pick for Brooklyn down the line, because maybe if Hugo Gonzalez goes to college and takes a different route, maybe he's a lottery pick. So to get him at number 27, to me, is a big win for the Nets.
Yeah, Brooklyn is quadrupling down whatever 5 is in that terminology. They are going all in on rookies. They are just trying to find something. They are throwing everything at the wall and just seeing what sticks here. And with Hugo Gonzalez, they're getting a guy who's a ball handler, a hustle guy. Frankly, kind of the guy that the Nets have had success with in the past, right? Kind of these overlooked ball handlery, hustly type of gritty guys. And if he's got a lot to prove, to Raphael's point, where he wants to show out, then maybe Brooklyn sees a lot pretty early from him, and maybe they can kind of harness that there. But either way, it's going to feel like a college in that locker room right now, because it's just going to be a bunch of young guys who are hungry, who want to try to prove themselves. And Brooklyn is now just flush with all of these guys.
Yep. One of the things I like about this pick for Gonzalez is, one of my fears for him were for him to slide to late in the first round, go to a playoff type team to where he's going to get spot minutes. The biggest knock on Gonzalez is, at best, he's a streaky shooter. So if he goes to a playoff team and they have to bring him in off the bench cold, and his first shot is a corner 3 wide open, it's not good for him, because he needs a lot of time and rhythm to be a streaky shooter. So with the Nets, he should have the opportunity to play a lot. And then once he's playing a lot and he has some rhythm, then that's when he becomes somewhat of a respectable shooter. But he's not a guy that you can bring off the bench, ice cold, stand in a corner. He's going to be left open and him being effective. So I think this is actually one of the better situations for him if he was not going to be a lottery pick.
I'm trying to read the James Harden trade from 2021, by the way, Rockets to the Nets. And there is a 2025 first in there, but I think it went from the Nets to the Rockets. So I don't know. Maybe this is coming back. It's insane, the amount of picks that get moved. And we'll probably see a lot more. We've seen a bunch of trades already happen in this one. But Hugo Gonzalez going to the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets have made 6 picks now. If you're the Brooklyn Nets, Raphael, and you walk away from this draft with Noah Asenge, Yegor Demon, Nolan Traore, Maxine Reynaud, Thomas Sorber, or our guy Sorbet, and Hugo Gonzalez, how are you feeling about your draft and your half dozen rookies that are walking into camp probably?
Well, for one, the rookies, Brooklyn and New York City is a very international city. So the adjustment may not be as difficult. And they're going to have their own special bond, not only the rookie bond, but the international bond. So they could end up being like a really, really close-knit group, similar to what you see with the Thunder. But overall, I like the talent. I like the fact that they gambled on guys that have really high upsides. They did what I would have done if I were in their position, not playing it safe at all. I'm swinging for the fences every time with every pick. So I like what they've done with this draft.
The last pick, Hugo Gonzalez, 27 to the Brooklyn Nets. Boston Celtics now on the board with the 28th pick. Let's see who John Corrales is taking.
With the 28th pick in the 2025 Locked On NBA Mock Draft, the Boston Celtics select Noah Penda. I'm John Corrales of the Locked On Celtics podcast. And I think at this point in the draft, you're looking for anybody with one NBA level skill, and then you try to develop the rest around that. Penda is a defender. He's 6'8". He's got positional versatility. The Celtics are losing a defender this summer, very likely in Drew Holiday. They need to get somebody in there that can help get stops, that can help turn other teams over. That's a weakness for Boston. So if they can find that at this point in the draft, that would be great. The obvious weakness is his jumper. The Celtics have never shied away from guys with suspect jumpers. They think they can teach that. Repetition, learning that skill at the NBA level. They think they've got the tools to bring that to a guy like Penda. Those natural gifts of defense are going to be what gives him a chance with the Celtics.
Noah Penda from France. I'm surprised he didn't go one spot earlier to the Nets, and they just do all the French guys they could get. But what is Noah Penda bringing to this Boston Celtics team that's going to need some bodies?
Versatility, kind of like a 3-4. I feel like his best position is as the 4. Struggles with his outside shooting, but he's a guy that's a sneaky athlete, and it's ironic that he ends up in Boston. One of my comparisons for him athletically was Paul Pierce, kind of like a doughy body, not like super explosive, but will surprise you and come down the lane and dunk on you like a younger Paul Pierce did. But he's a connector. I mean, that's the main appeal for him, is that he's a good passer. But for him, the shooting is the big concern. And I think for him, in order to really find minutes early in Boston, he's going to have to knock down shots. Despite Tatum being out, Boston is still going to be competitive. But there may be some opportunities for him simply because, I mean, they have like a tax bill that is outrageous. Yeah. So they are going to have to cut some salaries. So it may be an opportunity for him in Boston that he probably would not have gotten if Tatum was healthy.
Yeah, I like the defense. I like the activity. I like the size. I like the position that he's playing. My question is whether Mazzulla will play him at all. Because even with the injury to Tatum and the need at that spot, to Raphael's point, he's not a three-point shooter. And that's sort of Boston's whole thing.
Do they like those?
Yeah.
They try to take those a lot?
Yeah. And frankly, I mean, even the three-point shooters that they have on the roster are young, like a Baylor Shireman or something. They haven't found much playing time for those young guys in the last couple of years. Obviously, that makes sense. They were competing for something. And now in what amounts to potentially a gap year here, they need to spend time this next season developing these young guys because the tax bill is getting way too much. They're going to have to make some cost-cutting moves. It's probably going to cost them more than just one player. It's going to be more than just a Porzingis or a Holiday trade. It's probably going to be two of those guys. Sam Hauser at $10 million could be out. Like, they're going to have to make some serious moves to reduce their payroll over these next couple of years. And so guys like Noah Penda, Baylor Shireman, Jordan Walsh, like all these guys that they have on the roster, they're going to have to spend some serious time developing them. Fortunately for them, Penda has some great tools. And if he can develop a somewhat consistent outside shot and they invest the time in him, he could end up being a potential role player, rotation guy, maybe even if it's just a back end rotation guy, but a guy who you trust to defend, be active, and maybe hit some open shots down the line.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't go with Liam McNeely here, even though McNeely, if you look at the efficiency numbers, he wasn't a dead-eye shooter, but he came into college basketball with a reputation as a shooter, and everything prior to this season at UConn, he was an efficient shooter, and then there's some ties to the Northeast. I'm surprised they didn't go with McNeely here.
Interesting. I don't think this pick will go to the Celtics. I think they'll use it to get off one of those contracts. Like we just talked about, like, we don't know if he's going to play. It's okay, if he's not going to play, then I think they're going to use it. But we'll see what they end up doing. In this mock draft, they ended up picking Noah Penda to the Boston Celtics at 28. Coming up, we finish off the 2025 NBA mock draft with the Suns and the Clippers. Who do they take? We'll tell you coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. I enjoy Monarch Money. I use it all the time because you have so many different kinds of financial things now. There's like stuff floating all around. And as you get older, you get more and more. You get a 401k, you get a mortgage, you have student loans, you have different credit cards for different things. You have a savings account over here, a high yield savings account over there. You've got all this different stuff. And you have to figure out a way to manage it all in one spot. Monarch Money is just that, but it's not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop managing your money and start building wealth. They also have surprising insights. You can say like, I want to buy a house, or I want to do this, pay off debt, different things like that. They'll give you certain steps based on where you stand and all that kind of stuff. I love that. The all-in-one convenience is great too. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA, all one word, LOCKEDONNBA, at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. That code is LOCKEDONNBA. You get half off your first year, 50% off the entire first year with Monarch Money at monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA. With the 29th pick, the Phoenix Suns mercilessly get some kind of asset and some kind of thing in the offseason. They get this pick from Cleveland, and now they'll make their selection.
With the 29th overall pick in the Locked On Podcast Network NBA mock draft, the Phoenix Suns select Drake Powell from the University of North Carolina, a 6'6" guard. Benjamin Garcia from Locked On Phoenix Suns here to break it all down for you. And the first thing you're going to say to yourself is, come on, Drake Powell, another guard? And you say, come on, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Colin Gillespie. This was the issue last year, too many guards. Well, Drake Powell isn't your normal guard. He's more of a hybrid forward/guard. This is a 6'6" player with a 7-foot wingspan who is a defensive menace at the University of North Carolina. And at his peak, could potentially be able to defend 1 through 4. Combine that with his nearly 38% three-point percentage in college. This is someone at the 29th overall pick with freakish attributes, a really young guy that you could mold, and it's exactly what the Suns need. A utility guard/forward that could potentially be one of the better 3-and-D players in the NBA.
Drake Powell from North Carolina going to the Phoenix Suns. Raphael, what do you like about Drake Powell going to Phoenix?
Drake Powell to Phoenix at number 28 or 29 is pretty interesting. Talk about going all in and betting on yourself. Drake Powell would have made a lot more money if you returned to college basketball, especially with the NIL deals that have been given out. I imagine he would have been able to command at least $2.5 million in the transfer portal. And in some cases, I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me. That's at least a pick in the teens. But he just decided that he was done with college, wanted to be a pro, probably get to the second contract a little bit sooner. And he's a player that had some buzz coming into the year. He had a really, really big, I think it was like a Nike Showcase Skills Camp, and his stock started to skyrocket. I thought he was going to be a lottery pick. Just did not pick the best situation as far as North Carolina. If you look at the numbers, he was efficient, but North Carolina was small. I mean, they had a game against Duke where I think he started at the 4, and he's like 6'5". And Cooper Flagg was starting at the 4.
See the next Draymond Green? Is that?
No, just North Carolina was too small. I just couldn't understand how a program like North Carolina, with all their history, did not have any size in the front court. So he played out of position, and he's a player that I think has a lot more to his game than what he was able to show. And if you're Phoenix, you have to be thrilled that you're able to get him this late in the draft. Right now, I think he's ready to come in and compete on the defensive end. That was one of the things the Suns needed, was perimeter defense. And so he should be able to provide that. So I think it was a good pick.
Yeah, one of the things the Suns lacked last year was two-way players. They had a lot of one-way players, but that left Mike Budenholzer in a position to be like, do I want to play offensive players? Do I want to go my defensive lineups? And he had this impossible job of trying to toggle between both. Drake Powell's a two-way player, right? He can defend at a high level. He can make open threes. He's got the size to guard multiple positions, play in different lineups, be a connecting guy. And after the Durant trade, they added a few two-way players, right? Kel'el Ware is a two-way center. Andrew Wiggins is a two-way player. Drake Powell. So you're starting to add these guys around Devin Booker and no trade clause Bradley Beal. So it's the lineups can now make a little bit more sense for whoever the new coach is going to be.
Which, I mean, it wasn't his fault. He got fired and it wasn't his issue. Just how crazy.
They were one Drake Powell away.
Oh, that phrasing just stings in a certain way for me. Drake Powell going to the Phoenix Suns at 29.
Drake Powell first burst onto the national scene as a defensive stopper, but it's the potential growth of his offensive capability that will ultimately determine his NBA ceiling. Powell's numbers from his lone year at North Carolina don't leap off the page at you, but it's the combination of everything he does while just scratching the surface that has him in conversation as a potential first-round draft pick. One of the single most impressive plays I saw this entire season of college basketball was Drake Powell hurdle an opponent, block that opponent's shot by grabbing the ball out of midair with two hands, and then lead the break back the other way. A surprise this year was Powell's ability to shoot, cashing in on 37.9% of his three-pointers. At 6'6", 195, with great length and mobility, Powell can switch defensively up and down the lineup. He can lead the break straight line drive, but he's better off the ball. Similarly, Powell on the defensive side is great as the primary defender, but he needs growth in his off-the-ball defensive capacity. The team selecting Powell is going to need to put in the time to refine who he is as a player, but there is a big ceiling ahead for Drake Powell.
The final pick goes to the Los Angeles Clippers. This is via the OKC deal that they made. Let's see who the Clippers decide to select.
With the 30th pick in this year's NBA draft, the LA Clippers are going to select Ben Suraf. We have the Oklahoma City Thunder's pick due to the fact of the pick swap, and the 6'6" guard who plays in Germany right now, I think because of his pro experience, could be a guy that could give us backup minutes off the bench immediately, potentially, giving James Harden a little bit of breathing room. And we're not fully going super small because he's still bigger than Norman Powell, James Harden, and Chris Dunn, if we're talking height, listed at 6'6". And he has experience playing overseas already. So Ben Suraf is my pick for the LA Clippers.
Ben Suraf goes to the Clippers. Rafael, what's he bringing to this Clippers team that is a win now scenario right now?
He's an aggressive scorer, very, very confident. Doesn't really like to shoot a lot of threes. Does most of his damage in the paint, at the free throw line, or on mid-range jumpers. Had just a phenomenal summer last year. Averaged 28 points in FIBA play, and that kind of catapulted him into just basically being on draft radars. He was always known internationally, but as far as being an NBA prospect, I think most people were on the fence. Again, big summer, carried that over to playing for Radio Farm Ulm, a team that is competing in the German playoffs in their top league right now. Like I mentioned with Asenge, Radio Farm Ulm is probably the only team in Europe that is not afraid to play their young guys. And Suraf just benefited from picking the right situation. And he was one of the few guys, other than, I guess, his teammate, that picked the right situation in Europe to where they were able to not only maintain their draft stock, but improve it. So with the Clippers, they get a guy that can score, a guy that is aggressive, a guy that is very confident. And if he can play the point, I'm not 100% sure about that, but I do see some secondary ball handling and playmaking out of him, so he can provide some versatility and some length in their backcourt.
Yeah, and those are things that they really need, right? Like Rafael said, this is a guy who can get into the paint and he can get aggressive. Outside of James Harden, the Clippers didn't have a whole lot of guys who can get 2 feet in the paint, right? It was James Harden in pick and roll and then throwing it into the low post for Kawhi Leonard, who oftentimes didn't even get all the way into the paint because he didn't need to. So, they have Norman Powell, they have Bogdanovic in those 2 spots, but those guys are more perimeter oriented at the stages of their career. And with Suraf, that at least gives them another ball handler who can get into the paint, collapse the defense, spray out to shooters. Whether or not that's a primary action or a secondary action, they just needed guys to put pressure on the basket in the paint. And if I'm Ty Lue, I am bringing Ben Suraf in, and I'm saying, you are spending all those stories that you heard about James Harden spending time after practice talking with Ivica Zubac and practicing pick and rolls and stuff. You are in those meetings. You are going to spend all the time afterwards talking with Harden, talking with Zubac, and developing some pick and roll chemistry with those guys.
That's the end of the first round. Any quick winners? We talked about the Nets and what they've done. Any winners that stand out to you from this mock draft? Or Rafael, is there anybody that you thought shouldn't, or that didn't get drafted that you thought should have? You mentioned Liam McNeely earlier.
Yeah, Liam McNeely is a guy that I'm not as high on as the consensus, but that's just me personally. So I'm actually surprised that he was not a first round pick. You have Joan Berenger from France, even though he plays in Croatia. He's French, and the Nets did not take him with one of their picks. So that is a little bit surprising. I was shocked that Jaeger Demon fell so far. Another guy that I would have taken in this draft is Hansen Yang from China. Definitely, if I'm the Nets, I would have taken Hansen Yang. Even if he's average, he's box office. You're going to sell seats. And the NBA is a business, but I do believe in him as a player. That's about it. Maybe Yannick Konen-Niederhauser from Penn State, an athletic vertical lob threat, one of the biggest winners of the, I guess, postseason. Played really well at the G League Elite Camp and at the NBA Combine. He's someone that if I were the Clippers, I probably would have targeted because James Harden is at his best with a vertical lob threat, and the Clippers have not been athletic the last few years. They're kind of one of the slower pace, unathletic teams in the league, so I would have added some athleticism in the front court. As far as winners, I like what the Blazers did. I like what the Nets did, obviously. The Hawks, I felt like I didn't know for sure what direction they were going in, but then adding defense with Colin Murray-Boyle should help. But I really, really like the pick that the Pacers had with Jace Richardson. I haven't been the biggest Jace Richardson fan, but he fits exactly what they need. And like I mentioned earlier, that roster is about to get expensive. And I think he's one of the guys that's in the 20s that can come in and play on a playoff team and find some minutes.
I agree with all of Raphael's winners. Portland and Indiana were the two ones that came to mind. It's hard not to win when you took 6 players like Brooklyn. So, I mean, it's...
Or
one of those
have to hit around. It may be more pressure if you strike out with 6.
Yeah, you miss all 6 of them.
Fair. Chances are, though,
tough.
We all like them, but to me, I mean, there's 2 obvious winners, right? Miami got Kevin Durant in the first round. Let's just talk about that. And then the Mavericks got Cooper Flag. They're still the biggest winners.
Wes Goldberg. Who's everybody talking about the next day after? If this is the draft, this is how it goes down. Wes, what are the national headlines?
Yeah, I think you're looking at the top of this draft and you're wondering how things work out. Is San Antonio going to keep Dylan Harper? That's the main thing. Are they and their 14th pick, I suppose, also in Asa Newell? That to me is the biggest thing that people are talking about is, does Dylan Harper make sense for San Antonio? Did they just take the 2 best players on the board in order to trade them? I think that's what everybody would be looking at, because Giannis did not get traded in our first round. And I'm going to go so far as to predict that he won't get traded for just a 2nd round pick. So if he does get moved during the draft, it would be during the first round, and his name didn't come up in the entire mock draft.
We've seen guys get traded, or we've seen first round picks get drafted and then traded right after. So it could happen. But I know that the Nets GMs were hanging up the phone on any Giannis deal potential. They're just hanging it up. They were not ready to part ways with them. So that's all of our picks. That wraps up episode 5 of Locked On NBA Mock Draft 2025. This is episode 6. So check out the NBA Squad Show. We'll all get together and debate who won the draft, which team could change their trajectory, which trades they liked, which trades they didn't. We'll do a squad show with everybody all together talking about that. Check out every episode of this mock draft on the Locked On NBA channel, as well as the Locked On NBA Big Board channel, and whatever you get your podcasts.